Thank you very much. Thank you and welcome once again, all of you. I hope you've been having a good NTLF, and this is the second day of the 32nd edition of the NTLF. And I hope to make this session very, very interesting for all of you. I know it's the session right before lunch, so we'll try to make it as interactive as possible. I'm privileged to have a very esteemed set of panelists with me. Let me begin by saying that this is supposed to be India's golden period where tech disruption is set to lead the next frontier of growth for the country. But at the same time, there are companies which are getting challenged. There are companies which are being the challengers. There are companies which are getting disruptive. And then there are companies which are disrupting the industry, not just in India, but globally. I have with me very esteemed sort of panelists who have part of storied companies. One of them is a 40-year-old bank. One of them is an 80-year-old conglomerate, which is the Mahindra Group. Another is a 75-year-old healthcare service provider, Dr. PathLabs. But before I get to talk to them about their experiences of how they have managed various cycles of disruptions, let me present to you some facts. I know that AI is the buzzword right now in India as well as globally. I'm sure all of you have heard a lot about AI in the last 1.5 days of NTLF. But let me present to you some facts. There's a study which says that globally 70% of the CEOs are thinking about investing in AI this year. In India, the number is 2/3. But hang on, close to 50% of CEOs are plain simply scared. 40% of the CEOs admit that they don't know how to go about investing in AI. But AI is not the only challenger. There is cybersecurity. And as per another study, 42% of the organizations in the country haven't been able to protect a cybersecurity attack. Then there is a challenge of talent. Close to 80% of organizations admit that they are facing a challenge when it comes to hiring tech-skilled workers. So I'll pause there, but it's not all gloom and doom, because like I said, the executives who are sitting here have led storied companies who have not just managed through various cycles of disruptions and tech innovations, but have managed to hold fort in their respective sectors. So I'll pause there and probably start with Mohit now. Mohit, you're part of an organization which is 80 years old. It's a legacy business which has probably seen many ups and downs with many cycles of innovations as well as disruptions. I would like to ask you that, given an organization of your size, which is spread across so many industries, how have you been managed to retain your hold over the sectors, at the same time stay ahead of the curve?
Thank you, Surabhi, for the question and inviting me. I think we are in India, so most people know the Mahindra Group. We are in automobiles, tractors and farm machinery, finance, logistics, real estate, solar energy, used cars, and many other similar businesses. I think we have been digitizing at the speed of India has been digitizing. India is in a very unique position for now, whether it is the India stack, which all of us are very aware of, which we use all the time, or even the acceptance and expectation of the Indian customer to consume products and services in the digital way. For us, it's a very hybrid, seamless focus on experience and customer experience. So we have a very simple four-pronged strategy universally across the group. One is to focus on customer journeys, make them digital, paperless, frictionless, zero latency, predictable, joyful. Right. So that's one principle, which includes hyper-personalization, next best action, or the best offer for the customer, many other things. Underpinning this is data and AI, because if you don't really know what the customer wants, likely you're going to make a wrong decision. So a lot of focus on data, and of course, that got supercharged with Gen AI in the last 1 year. Third focus has been on cloud adoption, that lots of what used to take a lot of time to drive digital transformation can be done now very fast because of the cloud. So we have taken the decision to move fully to the cloud. 70% of our assets are already in the cloud. And that's making innovation and experimentation to be done at a very fast speed. And last but not the least is the focus on data privacy and cybersecurity, which you spoke about. The trust in the new world, whether it's a trust trust with the employee in the company, or the vendor in the company, or the customer in the company, has to be established digitally. And for us at the Mahindra Group, trust is foremost. And of course, doing all this at scale also gives you the sustainability advantage, inclusion. Lots of what we do is around financial inclusion, sustainable practices, making automobiles safer, making real estate greener, and hence technology is at the front and center of this change as India is changing. And we think we're only getting started. For the next 5 to 10 years, the innovation and the rate of innovation will change dramatically. And I think we're in the right place, very luckily, at the right time. So that's kind of my angle to it.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Mohit, for that answer where you very nicely put that how technology is the sort of the frontier of the change, and how you're inculcating technology, be it through cloud or be it through Gen AI, as far as the group is concerned, and making sure that the group is relevant with the changing times. I'll now go over to Om, who's part of Dr. Lal PathLabs. I think that is one organization which has been around for since 1949, if I'm not mistaken, and it is something that kind of touches all of our lives in some way or the other. I would like to ask you, Dr. Om, that tell me that as far as digital health is concerned, I think the healthcare sector is getting disruptive when it comes to digital health. The numbers right now somewhere around 400 million, if I'm not wrong. There's still probably a crore plus people who still have to come under the fold. How do you look at this entire digital revolution when it comes to health? What are the opportunities and what are the challenges from your prism?
Yeah, good afternoon and thank you for having me here. I'll probably give a little bit of a broad view of healthcare. If you look at a healthcare continuum, it's actually evolving from being predictive, going to preventive, and then prescriptive, and then finally therapeutics. Now, Dr. Lal PathLabs' primary role is essentially to do a test for a tissue, or blood, or any other body fluid, and give a diagnosis or give certain values. And our output actually is nothing but digital. We just give some values on a piece of paper, which are actually now given in a soft format. But what we are seeing now is that AI actually is bringing a lot of changes. I think the biggest use case that we have seen in the recent past has been about image recognition. Now today, I'm sure all of you would have heard about this, that whether it's CT scan or MRI or even X-rays, and in pathology we actually scan tissue biopsies, and they are beamed from one place to another place. And today through AI we are able to actually pick some of these lesions very early. So if you look at the problem which technology is helping us to solve, is not only diagnose it accurately, but I think the most important is diagnose it early. Sometimes we are also seeing that a human eye is not able to pick up some lesion, which machine is able to help us that, okay, there is something wrong here, why don't you go investigate it further? So that's one big use case that we are seeing, and it's actually very real. In our case, we have certain algorithms written from various places to diagnose various cancers. So I think that's one thing which I see very clearly. If you look at dimension on which technology is working, one is on the customer experience. That I think during COVID times we have seen quite a bit. Now, whether it's a COVID app that came in and you can actually book online, now the entire experience of blood collection is at home. So those days have gone when patients actually used to come to our lab. Now everything is happening at doorstep. And with ABDM coming in, a lot of the data from various service providers will actually fall in one place, and you have a 360-degree view of data. So I think just to sum up, healthcare is full of data, both in terms of numbers and text, lying all over the place. I think this whole technology is bringing everything together, and it has application, huge application on many dimensions, whether it's a population data, whether it is individual data, or even clinical research. I think there are immense possibilities there.
Sure. Thank you for that answer. I'd like to go over to Jay now. Jay, you come from the banking and banking industry, which has been probably not just in India but obviously globally, one of the largest spenders in technology. It's said that technology changes every 5 years, and the banking industry has to adopt, has to be sort of a leader in order to stay relevant. When it comes to the Indian banking industry, we've seen a lot of startups. In fact, if we look at this, some of the most successful startups, they are fintechs. Be it Zerodha or Paytm, which is probably in the news for the wrong reasons, be it Cred or Razorpay. So how is it that a 20 or 40-year-old bank like Kotak has continued to stay relevant at the top of its game, even while this entire fintech revolution is taking place in the country? And obviously, there is an underlying layer of DPIs, which I think Mohit mentioned about, which is both been sort of a catalyst as well as a disruptor in some way in your industry. What is your take?
So, thank you, Surabhi, for the question, and thanks for having me. So from kind of a banking industry perspective, ultimately, from a banking industry, money and the end product that we are serving the customer, in some sense, philosophically and as well as with the DPI evolving, has always been a digital product to begin with, right? So in some sense, I would say financial industry, both in Indian banking as well as in global banking, where I've worked almost 2 decades, has actually been, at the forefront of how to kind of manage the IT stack and technology stack to manage money in a seamless digital manner. The areas of focus where, especially with the technology disruption, etc., happening, continues. So relative to fintechs, which you talked about, have been successful. A lot of Indian banks and Kotak Mahindra Bank as well, we continue to stay extremely relevant and competitive because of our razor focus on, how do we continue to upgrade our technology stack in multitude of areas. I would say, there are 3 distinct sort of areas which are, big areas of investment from a technology perspective for us, where the technology, digital stack, cloud, as well as the AI adoption, etc., comes in. And having focus on the 3 distinct areas is what kind of separates some of the Indian banking industry from fintech, right? To start off with, the first is the customer area, right? So from a customer area and creating digital first customer experiences, to all the way to really deeply knowing your customers. So while I think we talk about KYC, etc., which sort of comes into the news, for some of the examples you gave as well, we continue to build a capability to really deeply understand our customers, so that understanding the customers, we are able to create digital first experiences which stitch together a multitude of experiences that they can have, across channels. So that's kind of, one piece of it. The second piece of it is the regulatory and trust. So now, while it's it's a comparison and thought that people have that technology, innovation and disruption and regulatory and compliance don't go together. For one, we as a bank believe that there are synergies to be had once you actually bring both these things together in really applying technology to continue to enhance our compliance standards, compliance monitoring, and our compliance and regulatory robustness practices. So that's actually kind of like a second big area there where we continue to invest. The third big area from a banking industry, so banking, while it will go digital first, given the subject of money, which is so personal and important to people, there is going to be a personal touch that will be involved, whether it is through the omni-channel branches, relationship managers, etc. And the third big area of investment continues to be, how do we take all this technological innovation, digital first approaches, backed by AI and intelligence, and really serve it up to our front line to help them serve the customers better. So can we actually provide all the intelligence at tip of the fingers to our associates who are actually working with customers on a day in and day out basis. So I would say kind of a broad sort of strategy to continue to invest in technology, but not for the sake of disruption, but very focused investment across the 3 pillars, which are super important in banking, is what kind of differentiates us and keeps us sort of going going even in the era of fintech innovation disruption that we see.
Sure. So, Jay, let me ask you a follow-up question there. How does it work? There's so many fintechs which are coming up with so many different kind of innovations on a everyday basis. Are you constantly looking over your shoulders to check what is happening, what is the latest, that they are to offer? Obviously, I understand the importance that Kotak Mahindra Bank and other large banking institutions place on things like compliance and trust, right? But is it a big challenge to constantly having to, one, keep up with the innovation that is happening, and secondly, to make sure that you are adopting at a very fast rate in order to be relevant?
Yes. So I think I would say, broadly, I'll answer that question in sort of two phases, right? So one phase is what is your underlying backbone and technology and infrastructure stack, and how do we innovate and craft it in a way? And we are undergoing this process of sort of continuing to modernize and transform our stack, but essentially having the stack be flexible, modular, robust, but yet kind of like set up in a way which allows us to react fast to changes happening, right? So one part of it is, and I'll get to the second part, but one part of innovation for any big organization, as I'm sure my panelists would agree, is to kind of take a stack which is supporting a huge business, but as we invest in it, also create elements of flexibility and robustness in the stack to actually adopt to changes in product and changes in customer expectations, customer experiences, and market demands, right? So that is kind of like one big aspect of it. The second big aspect of it is similar to fintechs, etc. As a bank, we continue to invest in engineering talent and sort of building up those capabilities that a lot of those ideas of creating unique and better customer experiences, while we continue to study and understand what's happening in the market, that is only one part of it. We are trying to create that capability where a lot of these ideas can come from within. And it is not about, hey, there is something cool a fintech is doing and let's try to do a similar thing. We want to be on the edge of the next idea actually coming from within. And in order to do that, I think we talked about the stack. We are also kind of building a digital first, digital talent capability in-house as well to continue innovating and coming up with sort of next ideas which take the banking forward.
Sure. So thanks for nicely putting it that you're not waiting for the next cool thing to come up and probably copy it. You're saying that ideas are coming from within. Mohit, how would you answer the similar question? With a legacy group like the Mahindra group, is your strategy the same? Or how are you dealing with startups which are sort of disrupting your business in, say, in agri-tech, in space tech, in EVs, in AI, in various industries?
So I think AI is a big lever for us in this decade. I think this is decade of AI, and AI for India is our focus. And that's got supercharged now with generative AI. So whether it's connected cars, which are more autonomous, more intelligent, right from Thar and XUV700, Scorpio N, we had some 4 or 5 blockbuster models, all of which are safer and fun to drive. And you'll see this continuing, and with electric coming up, and we're launching 3 or 4 electric models later this year. This will only get accelerated. So that's one area. Surely in farming and tractors, tractors are also getting more intelligent. The sole aim there is to help the farmer get more income from their acre of land. If you look at Indian farming, farmlands are small. So if you can drive productivity and help the farmers from weather data, soil data, better method of irrigation, satellite data, so we are able to build AI models where we can tell the farmer when to harvest the sugarcane, promising them that if you harvest it today, you'll get better rate from the mandi versus harvesting it a week earlier, week later. Right? So build AI models which really can be used. Similarly in finance, we have a Mahindra Finance, similar company as the bank he spoke about. In real estate, so we're able to build net zero inventory, where residential buildings, they have a net zero footprint from solar, wastewater, composting. So I think the focus is on use of AI. And in all those, there are specialty startups which specialize either in agri-tech or in composting or wastewater recycling, who then become a part of the stack. But the focus there is AI, using AI, being customer-centric and offering a lifetime value for the customer. Only then you create a lasting brand and a lasting company, which we want to continue to be.
Sure. So probably turbocharging Mahindra Group with AI, is your mantra.
Yep.
Right. I'll go to Om now. Om, I want to understand from you that, as far as Dr. Lal PathLabs is concerned, I think the government has a big agenda to digitize, healthcare sector through the National Digital Health Mission. While it's a very, very ambitious project, but the success, it's so scattered right now, the entire healthcare sector, that I guess there's a little bit of struggle when it comes to getting all the service providers together and they're all operating in silos. For some reason, the success of UPI is still yet to be replicated when it comes to the health mission. What do you feel is the reason, and how can we sort of overcome it?
Yeah, I think the primary reason for that is mainly because the healthcare ecosystem is highly fragmented, and you don't have large scale players which have very, very highly evolved IT systems. Even companies like us also in the last maybe 10 years, we've gone through a lot of this transformation of putting together, going on cloud and putting data lakes, etc. But if you look at many small nursing homes, even large hospitals also, still the prescription is on a physical piece of paper. So unless that paper is digitized, I have my apprehension about this whole ABDM taking off. To my mind, I think the entire ecosystem needs to get digitized first, get onto the cloud, and maybe universal codes, because the test codes that we use are very different, let's say test code any other lab uses. So it's important to do a standardization of various codes and making sure that digital ecosystem evolves in healthcare. So it's a great journey, but I think once in place, there are huge sort of upsides to the ecosystem.
Sure, sure, sure. So I'll probably pause here and see if anybody from the audiences has any questions for the panelists. Please raise your hand. Maybe there are mics that will go over to you. Anybody has a question? Please feel free to ask anything that you'd want to ask any of the panelists. All right, never mind. So that gives me more time actually to ask more questions. So, so let me probably I think we've almost run out of time as well. So let me summarize this conversation by asking each one of you, if you had to identify one threat and one opportunity for your respective companies, what would that be, Jay?
So I think the threat for sort of our banking industry, etc., will sort of continue to be, and this is an active area all of us banks are kind of working on, is as some of this disruption is happening, I think the core platform for banking is kind of built around trust, compliance, and solidity in terms of managing customers' money and managing it in a way which sort of complies and adheres to the robust sort of regulatory infrastructure that we have, right? So we need to sort of continue to make investments in that domain and continue to sort of stay ahead of that game while we actually do all the disruptions, etc., that are that are happening in the market. From an opportunity perspective, I think the opportunity for the industry is that especially with the Indian banking and Indian regulatory framework, which is forward-looking with the DPI kind of enabled, and some of the initial components of DPI, whether it is the UPI stack, account aggregator, Aadhaar-based KYC, etc., have tremendous potential for innovation and easing both the customer experience as well as easing the access of banking to the end customer. So I think the opportunity, while I think fintechs and the Indian banking industry have actually started the march on this journey, I think the opportunity continues to be sort of limitless in terms of how can we serve customers better. Really take advantage of the stack that we have available from a regulatory framework perspective, and continue to innovate and continue to sort of enhance customer offerings and customer experience.
Sure. Mohit?
I think opportunity generative AI, we've taken a very early position around a year ago to work on it in clusters of sales and marketing, customer service in a big way, and also technology, problem solving, etc. And I think we're going all in. It'll change the way people try and buy and drive and live. So I think it's a big opportunity for us. I think on the threat side, I agree with him. Data privacy, cybersecurity, and losing the trust is, yeah, that to me will kill the party.
Sure. Well put. Om?
Yeah, I think I see two big opportunities for us. One is in healthcare, you not only have to catch it right, but you have to catch it early. So if you catch it early, then you can actually cure it. I do believe that this entire whole technology piece is going to help us to pick a disease pattern very early, or even go into predictive side, because nowadays whole human genomics area, there's so much of data being generated.
Sure.
You can actually find out what are you at risk, those kind of situations. I think that's number one. The second is, from an Indian context, access is a big issue for us. shortage of manpower. So today, if I have access to, let's say, good quality pathologists or histopathologists sitting in Delhi, I can actually do biopsies sitting 2,000 kilometers away and still read the slides sitting in Delhi. In other situations, this person is not sitting there. The risk which I see is actually on the same thing of patient data confidentiality, privacy, etc. Because at the end of the day, to have a 360-degree view of a patient or a disease, I still need to start sharing some of this information with each other. It actually exposes the whole thing. So I think that's a big risk.
Sure. So I guess we're almost at the end of this session. My key takeaways from the conversations with these three very bright men is that there are limitless opportunities. Probably technology will open the doors for many of the innovations going forward. But at the same time, there are challenges of cybersecurity and data privacy, with, I guess, both the government as well as the private sector have to jointly solve. Thank you so much for being such a lovely and a patient audience. I hope you had a good time. Thank you very much. Have a good day ahead.
Thank you, Surabhi.
Thank you, Surabhi.
Yeah, thank you, Surabhi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Mohit.
For more content on tech and leadership, subscribe to NASSCOM YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.